The journey starts in 1996. I was working for a retail organisation, and by definition, my experiences hopefully go across all sectors, and I'm deliberately staying clear of some of the specifics of your particular sector, because one, I'm not an expert, but two, I think you're capable of drawing your own conclusions. But my journey started in 1996. I was working as you love the phrase, middle manager, that person who's just about got to the level of the company car, but clearly hasn't the appetite or the talent to get any further, And there we were, when in this retail bank we were introduced to an MBA professor from Harvard who was a leading global expert in the customer experience. And he had an enormous brain. If anyone can remember Captain Kremen, do you remember Captain Kremen, the cartoon character? Yeah, I know, you're giving that one away. He had a huge forehead to pack his massive brain in. He knew absolutely everything, and he got us all together, all the distribution managers of this retail bank, and he said, okay guys, today we're going to look at leveraging the quality of each and every customer interaction. So to blank faces, clearly. So we're going to do a little bit of six-set thinking, a little bit of force field analysis, a little bit of fishbone, and a little bit of affinity grouping within the broader context of brainstorming. Yeah, sorry, Yvonne, you told me these were well practiced at that stuff. You did that, I was going to say. Oh dear, come on. Yeah, no, neither did we. We didn't have a clue. We didn't have a clue what he was talking about. And he said, guys, I can see you're looking a little blank. And we said, well, tell you what, why don't we take a little bit of a coffee break? We'll just try and get our head around some of these concepts, and maybe that we can then, when we're feeling a little bit ready, we can talk about it again. Now, it was 1996. I didn't tell you where we were. We were in Halifax. Halifax in West Yorkshire. Anybody familiar with Halifax? Okay, yeah, Halifax. Yes. I now live in Brighouse, so I live very, very close. Actually, I live in Wyke, but it's posher if you say Brighouse. Wyke's not quite so posh as it. No. So I live in Brighouse, and this was 1996. Halifax, and our friend said, okay, you guys, if you're going to have a bit of a break, I'm going to go and get myself a cappuccino in town. Now, you can sort of make up your own stories at this point, can't you? But you've obviously concluded that the chances of getting a properly made cappuccino in the Halifax of 1996 could be quite difficult, and so it proved. He came back about half an hour later, looking visibly shaken, and he said, I got to tell you what happened. And we said, well, what happened, Rick? He said, I went to the Merry England Coffee House, which, if anybody knows, is it's a coffee emporium, but it has a vague sort of medieval theme to it. In Utah, they still execute people by firing squad. It was that sort of, customer ethos. And he said, I was greeted by a long line of short, aggressive-looking women wearing matching purple uniforms. I thought, I know this place. This is the place we know and love. I said to the first one, can I get a cappuccino? And she said, you'll have to go to Leeds if you want one of those, love. Thus began the journey through the British customer experience. And so, I like to think I've given you a research base, an anchor, if you like, for all the subsequent experiences. I think that's where we maybe were in Britain in 1996. The customer experience. You mean there's a link between that and fulfillment of our roles in the public sector, or achievement of the bottom line, or delivery of our franchise? Surely not. But that's what it was, and I've always gone back to the Merry England. Thankfully, I've never spoken in a room when there's been people from the Merry England or their lawyers, so until that happens, I'll keep going. But I've always gone back, after every 2 or 3 years, just to see whether they've embraced this new, customer-driven culture. Do they have a Facebook page, for example? I don't know. There's a challenge for us. I went back about 5 years ago, and I went in first thing in the morning. I greeted them all. You could see them in the shade. It's a sort of glints of purple, sort of threatening parade of women stood behind there. I said, can I have an extra large cappuccino, please, to take away, but without the chocolate dusting because it sticks to the lid? Now, you see how customers are becoming more sophisticated, over time. She looked up at me with a one good eye and said, strictly speaking, without the chocolate dusting, that's a latte, and we don't do those in large. And I'm sorry, I'm operating at a very subtle level. This is sort of post-grad, this is MBA stuff. I hope I haven't lost anybody at this point. But, it has continued. And a friend of mine who was marrying someone from the southeast to try and clean up the gene poo, down there, brought him to Halifax to give him the Merry England experience. And she took him in there. She went first, He went first, rather, and he got fantastic service. Hello, love, what would you like? A custard and a coffee? Yeah, great, fantastic. And he's looking at his wife. Yeah, brilliant, fantastic, great northern welcome. She took her cappuccino along and asked the lady if she could have a bit more chocolate dusting on the top of the cappuccino. And the lady went, no. It's like there wasn't, debate wasn't being invited. Just went, no. So she thought, oh, she must have misheard me. So, can I have a bit more chocolate dusting on my cappuccino? And she said, sorry, love, no. Just a minute. And she looked right, she looked left. She reached under and she brought out a laminated piece of A4, which upon it was written, preparation of a cappuccino. And she pointed to the fourth bullet point down, which said, only a light sprinkling of chocolate for each customer. It's nice to see in these chastened times, I'll be announcing some of my own, budget cuts in the next few minutes. I'll be taking the food with you, by the way, from some of the things I've heard so far. But, that's interesting because I know it's funny to hear those stories, but it tells you a lot about the importance of the customer experience. What I did back in 2003 when I kept a diary of my family's experiences, mostly in West Yorkshire, but in other parts of the country too, which became in convenience stores. And the idea was, having been effectively an internal advocate for customer service, somebody who'd done lots of stuff around customer service for businesses, I think the catalyst for me was actually abandoning that, trying to forget all this rubbish about internal service, profit chain, management practices, balanced scorecard, and actually be a customer, but with a little bit of inside knowledge. And if I actually go around and we just experience how the local council are, how various suppliers are, how various organisations are, then it might actually give me an explanation as to why change or a focus on the customer is so difficult for some organisations. Would you agree? By show of hands, who thinks customer service generally in Britain is great? Who thinks it isn't? Who would say it's getting better? Yeah, I'd agree. I think we're finally getting there, but we always tend to be looking further afield for better customer experiences. How many people, again, by show of hands, have had their best ever customer experience away from these islands? Yeah? Can I ask you, what was yours? Can you remember?
Not necessarily.
Holiday type experiences?
Yeah, I've just been away and just interaction with the customers in restaurants and places like that.
Just very friendly. I went to Chicago a couple of summers ago, and I went to a 7-Eleven at 11 o'clock at night, and a fella who probably retirement age was stacking the shelves. There's very few people in the store, and I said, excuse me, can you tell me where the bottled water is? And he said, sure, but how are you? And I'm trying to think how many times that's happened in Boots or Asda. If you did, he's not CRB checked, or stop touching the customers. It's not the sort of thing you see. So potentially cultural. Then we were crossing a street to go to Navy Pier. This policeman's directing traffic, and I walk past with my kids and Anna. We go by, and this guy goes, "Hey, what beautiful kids!" You just want to hug him. Why? Everybody likes to speak to customers here. Of course, there is one reason why customer service is so much better in the States. You do know that, don't you? It's because customers are armed. I do feel that we should have a little, for example, if we armed the population of Consett and then looked at the levels of service in the post office. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we had to abandon it. We've tried it in Grangetown as well, and